Here is Edit, and we chatting Pokemon on Reddit. First up, Pokemon Emerald is by far the best Pokemon game ever created. I think Pokemon Emerald has the best replayability out of all the Pokemon games that Pokemon has ever made. There's just something about it that you could just go into it and just replay and replay and replay, and you won't get tired of it. It's something that only Pokemon Emerald and I think Fire Red have. That is just top tier when it comes to replayability. Now, best Pokemon game ever created, I think that's a stretch. I understand it's a newer game, or not a newer game, but an older game, so it didn't have all the fancy new features that we have now. But I think that if you just wanted a good Pokemon game or a great Pokemon game, Gen 4 and Gen 5 are peak Pokemon. I understand what you're saying with the end game, the post game, because a lot of new Pokemon games don't really have post game. The older ones did have something along the sorts, and Gen 5 alone, I would probably say, I mean, Black and White or Black 2 and White 2, there was just too much content, as well as story was fantastic. The new Pokemon, the way that they tackled it, so in Gen 5, instead of reintroducing all the new Pokemon, it was basically like a clean slate, and they introduced 156 new Pokemon. That's why it was the biggest generation. Now, with that, they included a lot of new, refreshing designs, and it made you basically not focus on the Pokemon that you used in the past, which was really refreshing. Gen 3 kind of had that, so I'll give Gen 3 a point there with Pokemon Emerald, but Gen 4 Gen 5, I remember it was a very, very big difference when it came to that. Gen 4 Platinum, Pokemon Platinum, that was also a fantastic game. It just took everything out of Diamond and Pearl and made it better, and included new evolutions and everything that were significantly easier to get. But yeah, I would probably say Gen 5 had the best. Not my favorite, but I think they had the best. Next up, this is modern Pokemon, and there is no reason to expect it to get better. The problem with Pokemon now, and I've been playing since, I would say, Gen 3. My first Pokemon game ever was Fire Red, and I ended up going back to play the older generations. So I played every generation except for Gen 7, because that's when I had that falling out. But I came back in Gen 8 with Sword and Shield, and I really enjoyed Sword and Shield, even though it was not a good game. Same thing with X and Y. X and Y, I was having this discussion also with one of my a friend. He was saying, I spoke with him, and Gen 6 had no redeeming features in it. Gen 6 there was nothing in Gen 6 that said, hey, this is good. Nothing in Gen 6 said that. But besides Megas was the only redeeming quality that Gen 6 had in the story. The story was not good. The characters were not memorable, including the gym leaders. The only one that I remember is Lysander, and he's the main villain of one of the worst teams, which had a great idea. Premise of we are perfect. We are the perfect beings, and we want to get rid of everybody that's not perfect, is a great concept, but horrible execution. Story was not all that, and then the characters were basically not memorable. So I will agree that was the first shift that I realized Pokemon was on a decline. But I do think that it is over exaggerated sometimes, because I do enjoy the older Pokemon games, but the older Pokemon games are good. You can replay them and enjoy it and have a good time. But the way that people express their feelings for the old Pokemon games is like they're the best things to ever come out. You cannot replay Gen 1. It is a hard replay. Gen 2 was very good. I like the art and everything in Gen 2. But if you're going to play Gen 2, you might as well just play Gen 4 and play Heart Gold and Soul Silver. You shouldn't go back and replay Gen 2 unless you want to refill the nostalgia. The real problem with all this is Nintendo has too much money to fail, and no matter how much we complain about the game and what we want to change, it's not going to. because they make too much money, and I'm one of the worst ones. I bought ZA. I have it right here. Pokemon Legends ZA. Focus up. For the Switch 2. And I didn't think twice about it, because I just love Pokemon, and it's been such a huge part of me growing up that I don't see myself not playing a Pokemon game. And that entails the problem, because Pokemon is such a big IP that Nintendo can just put out a Pokemon, anything Pokemon related, and people are gonna buy it. So they can put up subpar games that are very, very lackluster in more ways than one, and we're all gonna buy it, and we're not gonna fight about it, and we're not gonna say anything about it. We're gonna complain, but that's it. They're not, and then we're gonna buy the next game. Always happens. So in Nintendo's eyes, why should we try? Why should we stress and force ourselves to make fantastic games if you're gonna buy the lackluster one anyway? I'm just going through this Reddit thread, and there is a lot of hate going on with ZA and everything, and how people do not like and miss the way Pokemon used to be. And I kind of agree with that last post. Like, that's what it is now. We have to just accept it. There's nothing that we can do that is going to change the way that Nintendo is going to make games, unless every single Pokemon fan goes on a huge strike and stops buying the Pokemon games. That might affect something in 5 years. Pokemon games need voice acting. I would love if Pokemon ended up using voice acting. There's something with it that it just shows that they cared about the game a little bit more. And this goes back to the discussion that we just had, that Nintendo has too much money and too much fame to fail. The fans will not let Pokemon fail no matter what. If they end up doing voice acting, Pokemon's a huge IP. It's not just in the US, it's not just in Japan, it's not just in a couple of places around the world. It is everywhere. So if you end up getting voice actors, you're going to need voice actors for English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, Japanese, Chinese, Vietnamese, so on and so forth, and the list will just go on, and Pokemon will spend a ridiculous amount of money on voice acting just so then you can hear them talk. And I would love voice acting, but it just doesn't seem like Nintendo will ever do that because of the amount of money that they would spend. And Nintendo is pretty money hungry, so I don't think they're ever gonna do that. What is the best Pokemon game to get hooked on the series again? If you just want to find out which one to play, just out of every single one, again, this goes back to the conversation of the first part. Gen 3 and both remakes were fantastic to start off. Heart Gold and Soul Silver and Platinum are great to go back and to get into the series, referring to the old games. If you want to get into the new games, that's a different question. I think Pokemon Legends Arceus, or Arceus, whatever you want to say, it was the best looking Pokemon game, as well as refreshing and fun story and gameplay. The story of being back in feudal Japan in the Sinnoh region, but renamed Hisui to provide lore to the Sinnoh region, was such a good idea. And it was entertaining, and it was fun, and you felt threatened because now you're fighting Pokemon. We were always battling Pokemon, but now we're fighting them. Like, scrap, like, put them up, like, fit, like. I remember seeing Snorlax and Alpha Snorlax for the first time, and I almost shit myself. But it's difficult enough and fun enough and unique enough for me to say that you should get back into. If you want to play a Pokemon game that's newer, go into that over everything else. All the other ones, maybe Pokemon Let's Go. Maybe. Pokemon Let's Go was more for like people that played Pokemon Go, but doesn't mean it's not fun to go through Kanto and just catching Pokemon and reliving nostalgia. If you ended up playing those games, I actually want to come back to this one because I'm kind of at a crossroads. I'm looking through like the comments and I'm just thinking to myself, why do Pokemon fans care more about the game than Nintendo does? Nintendo makes all the money from Pokemon games, and Pokemon fans are just want new content. They want good content. They want things that are going to want them to talk good about the game. And I don't remember the last time we sat through a Pokemon game and had a good discussion about it. A mainstream game that was good. The last one that I remember was Gen 5. And Gen 5, even though Gen 5 got a lot of flack for it at the beginning, Gen 5 got a lot of love and its flowers after. And going back to the older games, we're not really getting, we never really got that. Or the newer games. Going to the newer games, we never really got that. Gen 6 was all hate, and yeah, we can all say that it was fun for the time, but we can't all sit here and lie to ourselves saying that Pokemon Generation 6 wasn't one of the easiest games that we've ever had to play. And then Gen 7 was more anime than Pokemon game. Gen 8 was a sorry excuse of an open world game with the wild area, and it was super lackluster at the beginning, specifically when it came to graphics and everything. That we had Pokemon fans on Twitter talking about a tree and making a tree go viral because Nintendo couldn't try a little bit harder to render out a tree. And then Gen 9 was the biggest disappointment when it came to, oh, it's an open world Pokemon game, but there's a bug every single corner, and there's always going to be a bug. I'm pretty sure, and I don't know why they got rid of the shiny sound effect. Why did you do that? In Pokemon Legends Arceus, they had a shiny sound effect. Why did you get rid of that? I have no idea why you would get rid of that. That was like one of the best and funnest things to do when you're done with Pokemon games. It's the shiny hunt. And the excitement and the adrenaline that you get from finally getting one is like off the charts. So when you find out, say like a lot of people that record, you record yourself playing the game, shiny hunting, or streaming, and you miss a shiny because there's no sound effect. Like, why are we doing that? And Pokemon fans are making better Pokemon games. There's fan-made games that are better than anything that Nintendo has put out in the last couple years, which is insanity to me. Which shows that Pokemon, if Pokemon was like more of an indie company or an indie game, it would probably be one of the best indie games of all time if it wasn't Nintendo under it. And then Nintendo also got mad at Power World. Power World was just a regular indie game. Power World was just a regular indie game that got a little too good, and then they got a lawsuit. Damn, gang, they really be tripping on my guy Power World. Pokemon with Glocks. Yo, but I'm not gonna lie, Power World, the creators of Power World, they're crazy for that. Shout out to them. Look, literally perfect. Highest grossing franchise on the planet, and they refuse to put resources in the games. It's mind-boggling. If they spent more money on the game, do they not think that more people would buy it? More people we wouldn't be having these conversations. I saw a video recently, and I don't remember the guy's name, so excuse me. But he was basically saying how Pokemon needs to have their own Breath of the Wild moment. And I could not agree more. And everybody was assuming Legend ZA was going to be their Wind Waker or their Breath of the Wild moment. And it wasn't. Or it hasn't been. And I've heard more hate about ZA than than I would like to think. But yeah, catch me next week though. Reddit discussions, Edit Paradox. Adios. I'm out.